This room looks so familiar somehow. Oh well, enough about that. What is playing at the movie theaters today? You're kidding. They made a sequel to one of the stupidest horror movies ever made. A sequel! Are you kidding me? What? Let's see what Rotten Tomatoes says. Maybe I don't have to bother. %81%? Are you freaking... Okay, is there just no sense of taste in Hollywood or anywhere anymore? I mean, God. You know what? I'm gonna see this for myself. I'm gonna see if there is maybe at least one thing about it that is even remotely worth any amount of praise I'm getting, because this is just ridiculous. Come on. It's actually good. Okay, before I get on with the review, I just want to give a quick shout out to Jack Reacher Never Go Back. It's a pretty decent action suspense thriller that is more or less just as good as the first one, with only the mystery not being as interesting as the one from the first one. Tom Cruise still does a great job playing Jack Reacher, despite the height difference that a lot of the fans of the books are having a problem with. If you're more in the mood for a decently put together action suspense thriller, then this is definitely one to check out. Now, for those of you who may be in the mood for something more scary, this is a really big surprise. Yeah, trust me, I am just as genuinely flabbergasted about it as you guys are. I was not expecting this to be even remotely decent. Just the idea of making another horror movie based on the Ouija board game was just totally ridiculous. Everybody knows the Ouija board is totally stupid and silly. It's merely just a party game anyway. And the only reason to even consider making a movie out of it is if you are a creatively dead, broken down business that has no idea how to revive itself. Yeah, I went there. Now, real quick, here's a little background. Back in 2014, Platinum Dunes, the production company owned by Michael Bay, released a little horror film called Ouija, a generic, cliche-ridden, jump-scare-filled, absolutely ridiculous excuse of a horror film that was not only not scary, but falls into that category of not even so bad it's funny kind of movie. It was directed by a gentleman named Styles White, who really works as a production coordinator for Sam Winston Studios. In other words, he's a special effects artist. And while there are plenty of people who have managed to go from one aspect of filmmaking to the director's chair, for the most part, it just doesn't work. And trust me, while I have a great amount of respect for special effects artists, most of the time, they just don't make good directors. Needless to say, this movie was a total, utter, complete flop, or at least it deserved to be. But because Hollywood is so dead in its creativity, they had no choice but to just shoehorn in a brand new movie. Except, instead of making a sequel, they at least pretended to go a different route and make a prequel. When I first saw the trailer for this movie, I had no hope for it whatsoever. Then I saw the Rotten Tomato ratings, which was genuinely surprising for me. And so after a little bit of thought, I decided to go check it out myself. Needless to say, I actually had a hard time sleeping that night. I was flabbergasted, blown away at how unbelievably good this movie actually is. Make no mistake, it's not life-changing, it's not fascinating, it's not spectacular in any way, but it is pretty damn good. And I think a big part of the reason why is the film's director. This one was directed by Mike Flanagan, who previously helmed Oculus and Hush. Both are equally spectacular, well-made horror films that I do highly recommend. I would say that Flanagan is actually on par with James Wan. He knows exactly how to station the camera to create that great moment of suspense. He knows exactly how to create the right kind of mood of dread, suspense, yet intrigue. And best of all, just like James Wan, he knows when to properly use a jump scare. Seriously, why haven't these two guys teamed up yet? Anyway, the story takes place in the 1960s, and boy does this film make it clear that it's set in the 1960s. But more on that in a moment. It follows a mother with her 2 young daughters who run spiritual seances, claiming they can communicate with the dead. One day, the mother decides to throw a Ouija board into the mix, and soon after, strange things begin to happen. Her youngest daughter starts talking to people who aren't there, seeing things and knowing things she couldn't possibly have known, and experiencing unusual encounters with a strange, strange being. And over time, as the mystery unravels itself, it gets more and more creepy. As I already said, the movie takes place in the 60s, and when I say the movie wants you to remember that, I mean it. This movie goes out of its way to emulate 1960s aesthetics. It uses the old Universal logo, the color and cinematography style is borrowed right from 60s aesthetics. It even incorporates the old-fashioned cigarette burns from when they used to run movies on film reels. It's a movie that is proud of its retro time period and wants to take full advantage of the retro style, and it does it beautifully. But what truly makes this film so remarkable is that amidst all the really well-crafted scares, it's ultimately a story about loss, about people and family. But of course, the MVP award has to go to the young girl, who is not only a really good actress, but is totally freaky here. I was genuinely scared out of my mind with this movie, and it takes a good amount of effort to actually get me scared at a scary movie. So yeah, I am happy to report that we have a genuinely good horror movie for Halloween this year. So if you want to see a scary movie in theaters this Halloween, you can't go wrong here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm The Norm, telling you what Hollywood doesn't want you to hear. Thank you for watching.